with a missing child in New Hampshire. Harmony Montgomery was just 5 years old when she was last seen in 2019, but it wasn't until last fall, 2 years later, that she was reported missing. On March 25th, the Manchester, New Hampshire Police Department announced the reward for information leading to Harmony had increased to $150,000. And now, Kayla Montgomery, Harmony's stepmother, who has been charged with benefits deception, has been offered a plea deal. We'll get into that in just a few minutes. First, Court TV lead anchor Vinnie Politan has more on the story.
This is little 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery clutching her doll and smiling for the camera. When you look at this picture, everything seems very normal. Harmony seems happy and cared for. But sometimes pictures can be very deceiving because Harmony's world is anything but normal and happy. Her father has been arrested and charged with second-degree assault. The victim, his 5-year-old daughter, little Harmony. But that's not the most troubling part of Harmony's world. This picture is from 2019, and there are not any newer pictures of Harmony. The photographs of this little angel are all over 2 years old. That's because she's been missing since October or November of 2019.
Help us find this little girl. Someone knows something, do what is right, and call in. I cannot emphasize that enough. Somebody out there knows something. It's time for people to do the right thing.
According to a police affidavit, Harmony's mother, Crystal Sori, says she lost custody to Harmony's father, Adam, because she was dealing with a substance abuse problem. She says the last time she saw Harmony was a FaceTime call on Easter of 2019. Meanwhile, Harmony's father, Adam, says Crystal picked up Harmony for Thanksgiving in 2019, but Adam's girlfriend at the time says Adam told her he dropped Harmony off at Crystal's. Now, back to the assault charges. Adam's uncle claims that Adam admitted to bashing Harmony around the house and witnessing Harmony being spanked very hard, forced to stand in the corner for hours, and scrubbing the toilet with her toothbrush. So while the court system is dealing with the charges against Adam Montgomery, the chief is still looking for this beautiful little girl in the photo.
Quite frankly, enough is enough. This is a 7-year-old girl. Let's find her, all right? Let's come together as a community and do the right thing. That's all I'm asking, and I don't think I'm asking a lot. If people think that I am, then I'll leave it at that.
Now, Kayla Montgomery, Harmony's stepmother, was indicted on a charge of theft by deception in late March. She's accused of collecting benefits while Harmony was not living in their home. Now, prosecutors say Kayla claimed more than $1,500 when she was not entitled to that money. And now we're learning that a plea offer and a counteroffer are in the works. At a recent court hearing, Senior Assistant Attorney General Jesse O'Neill told the judge the state has made a plea offer. It was communicated relatively recently. And then Kayla's attorney, Paul Garrity, said the plea offer was discussed and a counteroffer was made to the state. Now, a hearing in Kayla Montgomery's case has been set for June 9th. So maybe we'll learn more then. Well, let's bring in tonight's guest. Joining me in Oahu, Hawaii, private investigator and retired district attorney of Riverside County, California, Deborah Allen is with us. And in Boston, Massachusetts, a great reporter with Boston 25, WFXT TV, Bob Ward is with us again. Bob, and both of you, thanks so much for joining me this evening. Truly appreciate it. Bob, thanks to you for coming on again and taking time out of your busy schedule as well. Let me start with you, Bob, because you're closest to the story, been following it, doing great work on it. What can you tell us that we might not already know about this plea offer, if there's anything out there?
Well, yeah, this plea offer was made yesterday in court up in Manchester, New Hampshire. We don't know what the terms of this agreement are. And just a few moments ago, I heard back from the prosecutor on this case, and he just gave me a big no comment. They're not talking about what the parameters of this plea agreement are. But here's something that we do know from the court hearing, which was only a few minutes long. Kayla Montgomery, by the way, was not in the courtroom for all of this. The prosecution said that they're going to share discovery on this fraud case with the defense. They have 3,500 pages of documents to share with the defense and 70 to 80 media discs that they want to share. So the defense attorney said, I'm going to need time to go through this. This is an awful lot of material I need to go through. They've already made a counteroffer, but the two sides have agreed to get back into court in June to go over all of this. Here's the thing. This is a $1,500 welfare fraud investigation. That's what she's charged with. But really, the bigger issue is Kayla Montgomery. The time period that this covers is the time that Harmony Montgomery was last seen. When was she last seen? She was last seen sometime between November and January 2019. And there's an 18-month window where the state is alleging that Kayla Montgomery was still collecting these welfare benefits when she knew that Harmony was not around. So what is in this discovery? Is the state of New Hampshire offering to settle this in return for information back from Kayla about the whereabouts of Harmony Montgomery? That is the $64,000 question.
Yeah, that would be the hope, Bob. And I read through some of the paperwork and different things in this case, and my sense is that there might not be some deal on the table at the moment, because one of the things the prosecutors pointed out that they're handing over is information about the investigation into the whereabouts of Harmony Montgomery, because obviously that's going to factor into the defense of Kayla Montgomery. If they're saying she wasn't there between a certain time period, they must have information suggesting that she wasn't there. And if I'm representing Kayla, I want to know that. Now, you've been covering this case, covering cases like this a long time. Would you agree with me that perhaps it suggests right now that Kayla really isn't providing them with information in return for a deal?
Right. Neither Kayla nor Adam Montgomery are talking to anybody about what happened to Harmony beyond their initial statements that she disappeared during a handoff to Crystal Sorey back in 2019. That is the story that they've stayed with right up until now. I asked Manchester Police just this week, has anything changed? And they said no. And I said, well, if they had a change of heart, I was up there talking to them about Adam Montgomery and these gun theft charges. I said, well, if he was willing to start talking to you, what happens then? And they said, would be all ears. So, the reward in this case is $150,000. That's a lot of money on the table for somebody to finally say something. But it appears that the two people that know anything are Adam and Kayla. They're both sitting in jail and are not speaking. Now, Kayla has a $5,000 bond. She could pay $5,000 and get out and get into rehab, but she doesn't have $5,000. In court, we heard back in January, she didn't even have $40. So she's really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And, if they're going to be back in court in June, by that time, Kayla will be sitting in the Valley Street Jail in Manchester, New Hampshire for 6 months, when really she kind of holds the key to her own freedom if she just tells them something about Harmony.
Yeah, let me bring in Deborah Allen here. When we talk about what happened to Harmony, which is really at the crux of all this, who cares about these other charges, right? It's about finding Harmony. You would hope that the people closest to her, who have been around her, closest to Adam, would have some information. Clearly, they're tight-lipped. So now you got to figure out where to go from here. In your estimation, you're a private investigator. Where do you go from here when the two people who you would assume would know the most information just refuse to talk?
Right. The deals are for players. And if they're not going to play and they're not going to give information, then deals are off. So she knows something. She's living in that household with him. She has 3 other children with him. She knows something that's going on. And her failure to bring forward, even if she's implicating herself at some point, is a misstep on her part, in my thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that she's holding on to something. I'm of the mind that maybe Kayla doesn't know anything. Bob, I want to check in with you. If you were at the press conference, we had some tape of the press conference announcing the gun charges against Adam Montgomery, and there was something interesting said there. It was said that from the investigation into those gun charges, some useful information was found. I don't know if you picked up on that and if maybe you had some information about that at all.
Oh, I absolutely did. They said that in the course of their investigation into Harmony's disappearance, they find something, they discovered this information about the guns. That's the genesis of this. But then in the course of all that, they say they found just last week some information about Harmony's whereabouts that they consider serious information. They wouldn't go beyond that. So it's all kind of swirling around. You know, Michael, you mentioned about where else can they go if you got these two people, these two immovable objects. Why, you know, they're not talking. Well, where can you go? Well, one thing we do know is that Adam Montgomery has a history of drug abuse. So they are looking for anyone who had contact with Adam. What did Adam say to any maybe drug dealers or people that he may have been dealing drugs to at that time, around the time that Harmony disappeared? You know, who was Kayla with? She worked at a Dunkin' Donuts, if I have my chronology right. At that time, she was working at a Dunkin' Donuts. What did she say? What were her mannerisms like? That's where, you know, I think they're trying to go with this $150,000 reward, trying to get somebody around them who may think, I don't know the whole piece of this, but there's a little bit. Adam said this, Kayla said that. That might give them a place to at least go search. One of the most frustrating things here is that there's been no physical search since January, but the reason they're an official search, there have been volunteer searches, but the police aren't going to go out unless they have an area to search. She could be anywhere at this point. So maybe something can shake loose, you know, with the reward, trying to get somebody to say, I remember something about them being near the Merrimack River. I'm just speculating here, but you know what I mean? That is where they have to go to get this information. That's where they have to try to get this if they're not going to get somebody to talk. Now, if they're offering a plea deal to Kayla Montgomery now, I think that's significant because back in January when she was first brought in, the prosecutor said in court, she's a flight risk. She knows what we are going to discover. She knows what's coming. So she needs to talk now. And it kind of seems to me, again, thinking, following this along, that they're offering a plea deal as like one last, you know, life raft or something, one last line. Grab this while you can because it's not going to stay on the table forever. Now's the time to save yourself.
Yeah, it's ultimately one of two things. Either they think she's got something and they want this deal to go through, or in their investigation, they realize maybe she may not know something and decided to offer the deal just, you know, to do the just thing in the case. Deborah Allen, you know, when we talk about this type of thing, clearly, the place you want to go are people that these folks cavorted with, right? Adam, he's really a career criminal, and that's exactly what he's been called by the previous judge.
Right.
In cases like this, in my experience, I want to know from your experience, at some point when you cavort with criminals, some criminal, you know, this case is going to break because some guy that this guy, Adam, was cavorting with at some point gets in trouble and he's going to say to the cops, you know what, I got a little nugget for you if you help me out. Right? I mean, that's how these things go.
Absolutely. We call it the shell game. It's like, you know, hiding a nut under a shell cup, right? I may not know this, but I know this about this, right? So they switch the cups, right? And so that's exactly what's going to happen here. If she doesn't know, which I find hard to believe, she's collecting welfare. She knows she is. For 4 years or 2 years on a child that she knows she's not caring for. She knows something that's going on in that household. She needs to really be working with her defense attorney and really coming up with a plan, an exit plan for her, or she's going to go down for this because that child's missing and it's a sad story that's probably not going to end well. I'm hoping it does, but it usually doesn't. And she needs to talk. If she's got information, now's the time because you're right, the deal's going to go away.
It is going to go away.
Deals are for players.
You know what's in their mind, I bet, Bob and Debbie, that they're saying to themselves, hey, whatever they're charging me with now is not going to be as bad as the charges that will come up if we talk. Right. At the end of the day. That's the sad part. Right, Bob?
Right. And she has 3 young children that she's probably thinking about that she will never see again if she had something to do with this and has been sitting on this information for all this time. That's the problem. Adam's looking at life without parole if this is a homicide and he did something to Harmony. And she is looking at bottom line, I'm going to lose my kids. Even if I cooperate, I could lose my kids for this.
That's right. So a lot
Right,
of-
but then there is the battered women's defense she can go along with too. If she's a battered woman from him, she's got 3 other children. We don't know her other circumstances, but if she knows something, she needs to talk.
I agree. I mean, think
Right.
about the child. You know, at the end of the day,
Right.
a lot.
It's enough.
A lot.
The chief said it
to
well.
Sort out. Yep.
Yeah, the chief said it well. Enough already.
Yeah,
Let's get to the bottom of this. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
A very big thank you to Bob Ward for joining us this evening. We always appreciate your insights on the case. We'll have you on
Sure.
again soon. Thank you so much. Deborah Allen, you're going to be staying with me because when we come back, it'll be time to open up our unsolved case file. And tonight, we're taking a look at the 2021 shooting death of 25-year-old Army veteran Darrell Brown. Show you the details and speak with Darrell's family when we